Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of What's Better, Raw or Smackdown? So, we're gonna see what's better this week. Last week, Raw was better. So we're going to see if Smackdown can be better this week. Now, obviously, we have a huge week when it comes to wrestling this week. We had Raw last night. We have Smackdown tonight, because at the time I'm recording this, it's like Tuesday. Well, it's actually noon, so it's Tuesday afternoon. So we have Smackdown tonight. Where it's the 900th episode. We have NXT. We have NXT Takeover Toronto, and we have Survivor Series this Sunday. So we have a big week of wrestling this week. So I fully expect the competition to really intensify between Raw and SmackDown. But let's talk about tonight's Raw. Now, I did take notes on the show, but I'm just gonna go off memory. I kind of want to jazz up the review a little bit. And just kind of talk about, I really don't feel like doing a lot of in-depth in this video. No, I'm using a brand new webcam software. Now, I don't know how good it's working because this is the first time I use it. I had to uninstall the Cyberlink UCam because it's a long story, really. My webcam on my computer doesn't really work that good anymore. So, I uninstalled the Cyberlink UCam because I was pissed off. So, yeah, that's kind of like the whole story behind it. I'm hoping that this webcam works, but if not, there's nothing I can do about it. So let's talk about Raw. Now, I did watch the pre-show, and we had the panel of experts between Scott Stanford, Jerry the King Lawler, Lita, and Booker T. As always, they did a whole poll where they were voting when they made their Survivor Series teams in the previous week about whose was better, and Lita's got the best, and Jerry the King Lawler's got the worst. I thought that was funny. And they answered some questions and all that, so I thought that was good. So then we had Raw itself, and I don't know how I really feel about Raw itself, really, because I thought the in-ring wrestling and the booking was actually really solid on this show. What sucked about the show was the crowd and the camera, like the production, because there were some points where when someone would win a match and they wouldn't play their music for a couple of minutes, the fans just or if they would be doing wrestling moves, but then they would cut to the crowd, or they would cut somewhere else. They would be and with the fans, they were fucking shit all night. They were quiet all night. Like when they did get loud when they needed to, but there were times when they just sucked. And and it just kind of ruined the show for me. Like, they were in Buffalo, New York, and I hope they never come here again because this crowd sucks. But we're gonna have to wait and see. So, now that I've kind of talked about it, let me talk about the show itself. So it opened up with Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon. They were cutting a promo together. And they have all the members that are going to be competing in Team Raw in the Survivor Series matches. Like the men's Survivor Series, they had the women out there, the tag teams, and even the people that are just going to be competing in just the brand Survivor Series. And they really hyped them up, talking about how why they should beat SmackDown and how they want to have the IC title on Raw. They want to have the Cruiserweight title to stay on Raw. And they pretty much hype up, like saying like Kevin Owens is a better champion than AJ Styles. Pretty much just making SmackDown look like crap. Which obviously made sense because Raw wants to be the superior show. So now that since they got a chance last week to work out their differences, they want to see if they can work together as a team. So they make a handful of tag team matches. They make Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. They have them team up together to face Cesaro and Sheamus, which was weird. Like, I didn't mind that they did the match between Roman Reigns and I didn't mind that they have them team up. Because they've been at odds, but it doesn't really. They've only had like one match where they were at odds. Like, it would have made more sense to have Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens team up because they're the ones that have actually had the personal rivalry going back to when Kevin Owens had won the Universal Championship. So it didn't really. I think that would have made more sense. And then they pair up Seth Rollins, Chris Jericho, and Braun Strowman together. Since Seth Rollins had powerbombed Chris Jericho through a table right onto Braun Strowman. So they want to see if they can work together to face the WWE Raw Tag Team Champions, The New Day. I thought that was fine, but like I said, it would have made more sense if Rollins and Owens had team up since they have more personal issue. And then they announced that Charlotte and Sasha Banks are going to team up since they've really had a personal issue since they were just inside Hell in a Cell, and they've been feuding pretty much since the beginning of the year. They have them feud against Alicia Fox and Nia Jax, which they try to make the fact that they've had a personal issue when they really haven't, which was weird. So they have these matches. I'll just talk about them. The Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns versus Cesaro and Sheamus match I thought was a pretty good match. There was this, Roman Reigns was getting his ass kicked by Cesaro and Sheamus. So when he rolls out of the ring, Kevin Owens comes up and says, "Hey, what are you doing? You're getting your ass kicked." And then Cesaro dives on both of them. And then Kevin Owens gets the heat on Cesaro. And pretty much the match ends when Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens are arguing. Sheamus blow kicks Kevin Owens, and Roman Reigns spears Sheamus, and he puts Kevin Owens onto Sheamus, and Owens ends up getting the victory. And that was it. I thought that was good. I thought that was it was a good match, and I liked the way they booked it, where Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens were able to get along enough to be able to work together to face Team SmackDown's men. And then we had the 6-man tag. They did a funny segment earlier where Chris Jericho was trying to rally up the team together, and he got them gifts. He said, "It's the scarf of Jericho. Drink it in, man, or put it on, man." And Seth Rollins says, "You really didn't have to." And he says, "I don't wear scarves." And Braun Strowman does funny. He's like, "I want that scarf, the scarf that Jericho was wearing." And they trade scarves, and Braun Strowman says, and Chris Jericho just rips it apart and says, "I don't like scarves, and I don't like you." So then they had the match. Before that, the New Day had cut a promo, pretty much advertising their gear, which I thought was a funny promo. And this match was a solid 6-man tag. They were pulling a lot of double team moves. I like the double team moves where the New Day, Kingston, and Xavier Woods had elbows on Chris Jericho, and that Big E would hit the splash on him. I thought that was a nice spot. And overall, this was a solid match. And Braun Strowman looked really strong in this match. And he ended up taking out both Kofi and Big E. And then eventually Rollins was trying to hit the pedigree on Xavier Woods, but then Jericho tagged himself in. Xavier Woods dumps Rollins outside the ring. Jericho hits an enziguri on Xavier Woods, and then he tags in Braun Strowman, and he hits a running power slam right onto Xavier Woods for the victory. And Braun Strowman, Chris Jericho, and Seth Rollins worked really well as a team. I thought they worked pretty well together. And afterwards, Jericho and Rollins get in each other's faces, and Rollins lays out Jericho with a pedigree to end the match and the segment. And then it was the Charlotte and Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax and Alicia Fox. The beginning of the match, at first Charlotte wanted nothing to do with Nia Jax, but then Sasha got off the apron and says, "See what you can do." And they had a lot of instances. They were even fighting amongst each other where Charlotte and Sasha were brawling. And then eventually Sasha makes Alicia Fox tap to the bank statement, so I thought that was fine. Really didn't make a lot of sense, though, that the Raw women that are going to be on the same team were fighting amongst each other. And Bayley was on guest commentary during the match, and afterwards when they're getting into it, she comes in and raises everybody's hands. And they even had stuff like where Enzo Amore and Big Cass had to work together with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson to face the Golden Truth and the Shining Stars. I thought that was nice. They did a backstage segment where with Big Cass and Enzo Amore were with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson did a parody of like their thing where they say where they do their normal opening segment to them, and there was a funny thing where Luke Gallows talking about, look, as long as you guys understand what you did at Hell in a Cell and what we did at the New Day, we should be just fine. And Luke Gallows says, "We're here to make greens," and Enzo Amore, I think, thought he meant that they were here to sell weed because he was making a bunch of jokes about it. And I thought that was funny, and they said, and Enzo and Cass warned him that if they stab them in the back, they'll beat the shit out of them pretty much. So, and which was funny, they actually worked better as a team than the Golden Truth and the Shining Stars, which was weird. Because the Golden Truth, this was so stupid. Primo was trying to break up the pinfall for Epico, but then the Golden Truth just pulled him right out of the win, which was stupid. But then eventually, Gallows and Anderson hit the Magic Killer, I believe, on Epico. I really don't remember. And they tell Enzo Amore to go up with a Boom Shakalaka, which I hate the name of that finisher. It's pretty much an elbow off the top. And then, but then they pin him. They just pin Primo or Epico, I forget which one anyways, which I thought was hilarious, and I thought that was a good tease, and it got them some good heel heat. And did they do anything else to really build that up? No, not really. Those were all the teams. They had other mid-card matches on this show. They had Sami Zayn versus Bo Dallas earlier on the pre-show. They did a segment with Sami Zayn and Bo Dallas, where Bo Dallas was upset that Sami Zayn is the one that gets to go on to fight for the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series, where he thinks he should be the one that should be, and this is the reason why he only believes in Bo. Well, Bo believes in Bo, and then Sami Zayn says, well, I know how you feel, I was in your position, but you can prove it why you should be later on in the ring tonight. And then Sami Zayn just pretty much beat him, which made sense. You want to build him up as a worthy contender. And they've obviously, I think, are backing off of Bo Dallas now, because he really hasn't been featured over the past few weeks, and he just pretty much kind of got squashed here. So they're pretty much, I think, are backing off of him, which I'm fine with. I really not a huge fan of him, but it just kind of pisses me off. They give this guy this huge push, and now they're just going to throw him to the wayside. And afterwards, he gets interviewed by Byron Saxton, because on commentary, I forgot to mention, was Byron Saxton, Corey Graves, and Michael Cole on this show. And Sami Zayn pretty much says that he's going to Toronto in his home country, and he's going to win the Intercontinental Championship and bring it to Raw. Kind of hope I would love to see him win in his hometown and for him to get a big moment, but I don't think it's going to happen. Then they did the thing with the cruiserweights, with all the cruiserweights were backstage, and the Brian Kendrick gets on, tells them that he's worried about their fate, and he says that he's going to be fighting for each and every one of them because he's the real star of the cruiserweight division. And T.J. Perkins says, well, I bet you're going to go over to Kalisto and just ask for him to let you win, because you still haven't given me my proper rematch clause for the title. And Rich Swann even says, well, hey, I've been beaten. I've beaten the Brian Kendrick twice. And then Noam Dar talks about how he laid him out a few weeks ago. And then Sin Cara talks about how maybe it's better off that Kalisto does win, because he'll be more of a champion than the Brian Kendrick will. So then they get into it. Brian Kendrick accuses Sin Cara of being a traitor, since he's been friends with Kalisto since Sin Cara and Kalisto were once a tag team. So it leads to a match later on the night that I thought was a good match. The crowd was dead as shit, though, in that match. Like, you could probably literally have heard a pin drop. You could literally hear, like, when it's just, the crowd sucked. But Brian Kendrick beats him by making him tap out to the captain's hook. And while his mask was turned around, so Sin Cara couldn't really see. And did anything else of note really happen on the show? Like, other than the next two segments I'm going to talk about? No, not really. So then next thing they showed was they had the Brock Lesnar and Goldberg face-off. Earlier in the night they did a backstage segment with Mick Foley, Stephanie McMahon, and Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman had talked about how, pretty much they just pretty much did a segment with hyping up Survivor Series in the match. And Stephanie McMahon wanted to make sure that the face match that Lesnar and Goldberg don't kill each other before the match at Survivor Series. So Mick Foley has a bunch of security guards standing in the ring, so that in between them, so that way they can't get into it. And Lesnar and Goldberg had a really good face-off. Paul Heyman went to do his thing. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And Goldberg says, this isn't about Paul Heyman. This is about me and Brock Lesnar. I love that he said that, because no one ever really says that. And the crowd really got wild. This is when the crowd really started to wake up. I think because it was kind of a forced wake-up. Well, they were forcing it to chant for Goldberg. Them to chant for Goldberg. And Paul Heyman, tries to talk about how, how he wants to give his opinion. And he goes to talk about all the people that Brock Lesnar has taken out into Survivor Series, but Goldberg says he doesn't care who Brock Lesnar's taking out because there's a lot of lists of superstars, but he ain't on it. And he says that he could take that list and shove it up his ass. And Paul Heyman talks about, is that really any way to talk to me in front of your family? And Goldberg says, if you mention my family, I'll run across the security and beat the crap out of you. And then Heyman apologizes for raising his voice. And he said that he thinks it's funny that this is fantasy warfare because it's fantasy that you think you can beat my client, Brock Lesnar. And the crowd was getting so rowdy that it got to the point where Brock Lesnar got on the mic and told people to shut up. And I thought that was awesome. And then Paul Heyman's like, you guys are pissing off my client. And afterwards, he says that but afterwards he says he promises to find a suitable replacement for Brock Lesnar to conquer at Survivor Series, and you can buy one of your kids a WWE Network gift code, so that way they can watch your past stuff. And Goldberg gets pissed and he starts taking out security, and as Lesnar looks on, and then they are about to get into physical confrontation, but Lesnar backs off. I kind of wish they did do some physical confrontation because this was kind of like what people wanted to see. The face-off was still really good. I really enjoyed it, but some physical confrontation I think would have been good. I really would have enjoyed it just because it really, they really don't need to. They've touched before, so they really wouldn't really take a risk. Maybe just throw a couple of punches and have Goldberg look strong. So that's kind of what I think there. So then, and later on, they did this thing called the State of the WWE Universe address, where Paul Heyman was hyping up the match again, talking about how the WWE Universe is healthy because Brock Lesnar is strong, and he's talking about how people are paying to see Brock Lesnar take out Goldberg, and the match is going to last as long as Brock Lesnar wants to destroy Goldberg, and just kind of stuff like that. And then the main event of the show was the Survivor Series Summit between the Commissioner and of Raw, Stephanie McMahon, and the GM of Raw, Mick Foley, with the Commissioner of SmackDown, Shane McMahon, and the GM of SmackDown, Daniel Bryan. And this was really fucking good. I really enjoyed this summit, and it was a great way to end off the show. I was wondering why the Lesnar and Goldberg thing ended off the show, but what they did in this segment, this belonged in the ending of the show. And they got into it with each other. Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley were talking about how, why SmackDown. Well, so first, Shane and Daniel Bryan plugged SmackDown's big show, and they were going off on each other. Stephanie McMahon was talking about how you guys provide opportunity, but how are you guys to provide an opportunity if you're on the team? You're taking away a spot that another full-time guy could have. And Shane McMahon says he's there to lead by example, and he's there to ensure that the team stays intact. And they talk, and they bring up, and Daniel Bryan talks about the fact that Mick Foley was an idiot of putting the entire cruiserweight division on the line, and they talk about how they're looking forward to get to the Intercontinental Championship back to Raw, where it belongs. And Stephanie McMahon says that the only people that really cared about you is that you jump off of high structures and get cheap pops, and Daniel Bryan says that Mick Foley does the same thing. They talk about how we're not lazy and complacent, because you talk about how we always push the woman, but me and Stephanie, we booked the woman in the main event on Raw and had them have the main event on the pay-per-view in the first ever Hell in a Cell match. So then, eventually, they were just really going off on each other, which I enjoyed. Eventually, Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley, Stephanie McMahon conducts, where she says, you want to come to Raw? Well, you're going to pay for it. And she has the entire Team Raw come out, and pretty much this was a setup. Shane McMahon, she was going to have the entire members of Team Raw beat the shit out of Shane McMahon. And Daniel Bryan says, he didn't think we were going to come prepared to you. So then the entire SmackDown Live team, AJ Styles, James Ellsworth, Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, James Ellsworth, and Dean Ambrose all come out. James Ellsworth obviously is the mascot, and they really start getting into each other. And Kevin Owens gets on the mic, and he talks about how you guys are now on the Kevin Owens show, and Kevin Owens and AJ Styles start going off on each other, talking about how now that you're on the Kevin Owens show, that WWE World Championship means absolutely nothing. And he talks about how on my show, I'm the face, the champ that runs the cape, and I'm the face that runs the place. And Owens is like, you stole somebody else's catchphrase. And Kevin Owens talks about, AJ Styles talks about how Chris Jericho is easily just going to, with past experiences, is just going to turn on Kevin Owens just like he turned on him. And Kevin Owens says it's not going to happen because I'm a better person than you are. And then Jericho puts AJ Styles and his mullet on the list. And he's like, who's that ugly guy over there? Someone left their kid, and he puts James Ellsworth on the list. And I thought that was really funny. And then Bray Wyatt talks down on Braun Strowman, saying that he brought him to WWE, he made him who he is today, and he feels like he betrayed him. And then Braun Strowman and Randy Orton have a face-off. Seth Rollins talks about how we're going to prove that me and Roman Reigns can work together. We're a destructive team. And then Dean Ambrose gets on the mic, and everyone just starts getting into a brawl. And it was a really good brawl. Everyone just starts fighting with each other. Braun Strowman looked really dominant. He was really taking out Shane McMahon. And AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose were double teaming, which was important because they've hated each other over the past few months on SmackDown. And they have a TLC match at Tables, Ladders, and Chairs coming up for the WWE World Championship. And Shane McMahon hit clotheslines himself and Braun Strowman out of the ring. Dean Ambrose takes out Seth Rollins, and he dives on him on the floor. Chris Jericho hits the drop kick onto AJ Styles. Randy Orton RKO's Chris Jericho. Roman Reigns Superman punches Orton. Wyatt tries to hit the Sister Abigail on Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns takes him out with a Superman punch. So Bray Wyatt can't even get him moving really on anybody. And Roman Reigns goes to dive on everyone, but AJ Styles stops him. And then Rollins lays out AJ Styles with a pedigree. And then they double powerbomb AJ Styles out of the ring onto the entire SmackDown team. And Team Raw stands tall, which I think makes sense because it's their turf. They should be the ones standing tall. I fully expect on SmackDown Live tonight for SmackDown to stand tall. But this was a really good way to end the show. You had that big brawl with chaos, and you had the right team stand tall at the end. And the altercations between both Bryan and Shane and Stephanie and Mick were really good too. And obviously seeing everybody back on with the mic work with AJ Styles and Kevin Owens was really good, and Jericho was good here too. It really makes me realize though how much of a piece of shit belt that WWE Universal title looks. The belt itself is pretty prestigious, but that title looks like shit seeing both the WWE World Championship and the Universal Championship in the same win. That title looks like a piece of shit. Like, wow. But, and then afterwards, they did this whole segment on the state of the WWE Universe where Daniel Bryan and Stephanie McMahon went off on Stephanie and Mick again. And Daniel Bryan was talking about how they only push the Attitude Era guys, and Mick Foley doesn't know what the nowadays wrestling consists of, and how they always give SmackDown their opportunities, and everyone on Raw wants to walk out of SmackDown. He even mentioned called Cesaro by his real name, Claudio, how Sami Zayn and Cesaro want to go to SmackDown, and Mick Foley talks about how he gives Raw its opportunities, and how about how Daniel Bryan was forced to come here because he was under contract, but Mick Foley actually wanted to come here. He felt like that he made a mistake leaving before, and now he really wants this job. And Daniel Bryan even mentioned the fact that he went to TNA for a few years. It was awesome. The altercations on the state of the WWE Universe was really fucking good. What I didn't like about it, though, was Stephanie McMahon said the same thing over and over again. Team Raw is going to beat Team SmackDown. It was fucking stupid. And just dumb. But yeah, Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley were the highlights there. And overall, I thought Raw was a good show. I'm going to only rate it a 6 out of 10, though. The booking and the wrestling were really good on the show. It's just that fucking crowd ruined the show, and you had the fucking production. But I really liked what they went for here, where they had everybody on Team Raw in tag team matches having to work together, and it was really good. So, I just can't rate it any more than a 6 out of 10. Just because of that crowd being as dead as shit ruined the show, and the production of Raw ruined the show. They really need to get someone else to really work the camera crew or something. Get a new production owner. So that's pretty much it, guys. And I'll be back to do my SmackDown Live review after I watch the show. Alright, so now on to SmackDown. This is like the fucking 4th time I've had to record this video. The first few times I just kind of fucked up in blocks, which I normally don't mind because it takes sometimes a couple of takes for me to do this. And then I just fucking recorded this video about not even 5 minutes ago. I was just sitting here talking for what? Maybe a fucking half hour, and the fucking video didn't record all the way through. And like, I could go back and record it again, but it's like, it'd be a waste of fucking time and a waste of fucking breath. It was a fucking joke and a half. Like, I'm fucking pissed off about it, and it's so stupid. It's the stupidest thing that could ever fucking happen. It's just... what a joke and a half. So let's talk about SmackDown. But before I talk about SmackDown... oh my gosh, I'm just so fucking mad. But anyhow, let me kind of get that... I was feeling that finally get off my face. We found out some sad news in the wrestling business. We found out a local WWF / WWE / TNA / WCW / AWA / any other promotion he's ever been to, New Japan Pro Wrestling, doesn't have very long to live. We found out that Vader only has 2 years to live. Apparently wrestling took a lot out of his body, and he only has 2 more years to live. And it's a sad thing in the wrestling business, you know. I didn't watch a lot of his matches and stuff, but I've seen some of them, and he was one hell of a performer. He could do things in that ring that no guy his size could probably do. And I kind of hope that maybe he lives for these next 2 years. He can really go out and on a limb. You know, he can go out with a bang, and kind of really think about the finer things in life. He probably does anyways. I don't know. He seemed like he was really cool when he was inducting Stan Hansen into the Hall of Fame when I saw him there. So I think it's really cool that he was a really cool guy. So I hope that he does take this time to live his life to the fullest. So, with that being said, I hope the best for him. Prayers are being sent out. So now that I've kind of done that, let me talk about SmackDown. Now this was the 900th episode of SmackDown. You know, this is the 900th episode. SmackDown is the longest weekly episodic television show in WWE, well, in television history, just behind Monday Night Raw. And it's really awesome that SmackDown's come this far. Obviously, I got started out because WWF at the time was involved with WCW, and they only had one show a week, so they wanted to enhance the wrestling programming, so that's why SmackDown. And you've had so many iconic moments happen on SmackDown. Just to name maybe a few of them, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin destroying the DX Express. You had the first ever SmackDown episode itself when The Rock and Triple H main evented for the title, and Shawn Michaels, who was the referee, had screwed The Rock out of the championship. You had you had the moment where The Undertaker made his debut, obviously, on SmackDown when he was doing that whole thing with the higher power. He had teamed up with Triple H to face The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. You had, what else? You had Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar make Hulk Hogan pass out to the bear hug, really put him over. You had Kurt Angle win the World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown. You had Edge cash in the Money in the Bank on The Undertaker. You had the whole funny skits that they were doing with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle, which was hilarious. You had Jeff Hardy's last match on SmackDown when he had the steel cage match with CM Punk. You had, what else did you have happen on the show? You had that steel cage match where Rey Mysterio ended up diving off the cage and right onto Kurt Angle, and I believe it was Chris Jericho, and I think somebody else was in there, but I forget. You had Randy Orton and John Cena debut where? On SmackDown. Randy Orton and John Cena both debuted on SmackDown in the same year. John Cena had debuted accepting Kurt Angle's open challenge, and Randy Orton debuted in a match against Hardcore Holly. You had the whole Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon storyline play out on SmackDown. Vince McMahon actually pretty much had appeared a lot on SmackDown, if you think about it. You know, it's kind of scary, but it's true. You had Rhino, Gore, Chris Jericho through like the Titantron. You had the segment with Brock Lesnar and Big Show doing the WWE Championship main event, Break the Ring. You had La Familia. You know, you had the whole Edge and Vicky Guerrero power couple, and the whole wedding with them, and when Triple H was pretty much had smitten with Alicia Fox, which was kind of weird. Wow. You had, what else did you have on SmackDown? Like I said, if I leave anything out, you can comment down below. You had the Big Show return and cause all that havoc and all that destruction on SmackDown. You had that parking lot brawl with Eddie Guerrero and John Cena for the United States title. You had Brock Lesnar turn heel on Kurt Angle in the steel cage match with Vince McMahon. You had that epic Iron Man match between Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. You had you have so many moments on SmackDown. Like I remember going to a SmackDown Live when it was like I believe, I don't remember what number episode it was, but it was like a special type of episode, and you had the 8-man tag team main event. It was Undertaker, DX, and John Cena versus Legacy and CM Punk. You know, that was really cool. You had John Morrison win the IC title from Rey Mysterio in that 5-star matchup that I still remember somewhat. You had what else happened on SmackDown? You had some bad moments, like the Great Khali winning the World Heavyweight Championship. It was bad. Jack Swagger winning the World Heavyweight Championship was bad. Eddie Guerrero's last match was on SmackDown. If you think about it, his last match was on SmackDown, facing Ken Kennedy. It's really weird. You know, not weird, but you know. You had the Boogeyman like sucking off that mole off Jillian Hall. You had that epic spot with Eddie Guerrero hits the frog splash on the JBL doing the steel cage match they had with each other. You had the matches with what else? What else? I just want to make sure I don't leave anything out. You had the Shield lose their first match on SmackDown. The Shield, who had never been pinned, never been submitted in a 6-man tag, and they lost the first matchup to Randy Orton and Team Hell No. It was really, really cool. You had Mark Henry's Path of Destruction on SmackDown when doing his whole Hall of Pain spiel. You've had the Buried Alive tag team match with The Undertaker and The Big Show versus the Rock and Sock Connection. You had the let me make sure. Let me see what. Let me see if I wrote some SmackDown moments down on my laptop. The moment when Clay Matthews helped Edge retain the World Heavyweight Championship against Dolph Ziggler. Already said those ones. You had the cutting edge with Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan. Because I was kind of watching that one from 2013 when Bryan made Orton tap to the yes lock on that to build up the match. The cutting edge with Mick Foley when Mick Foley had told Edge to bring the Edge that he wrestled at WrestleMania 22 to the Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. The cutting edge with Batista when to build up their one-night stand match from 2007 in the steel cage. The cutting edge with The Undertaker to build up their one-night stand TLC match at, well, I already said what it was. Like I said, Undertaker's SmackDown debut, we talked about that one. You had the draft show from this year, obviously, too. You know, you can't forget that one. The 15th anniversary they had, like, last year. Well, a couple of years ago. You had Alberto Del Rio's debut on SmackDown. He won the Last Man Standing match by beating Big Show. You had the I Quit match with Chavo Guerrero and Rey Mysterio when when Chavo had Rey Mysterio upside down by his knee and he forced him to quit, which was an awesome moment. I never forget about that moment. What else? Matt Hardy version 1, which is like the second for WWE wise, was probably Matt Hardy's best work. Yeah, Brock Lesnar, the Undertaker's feud that started on SmackDown, where Brock Lesnar broke the Undertaker's hand. When Brock Lesnar beat the shit out of Big Show. When he F5 Paul Heyman, when Chris Benoit and John had put Paul Heyman in the sharpshooter, and Cena was forcing him to eat soap, which was hilarious. Trying to think of more moments. The steel cage match with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. That's a good one. Kind of already said, but the steel cage match with Batista and Undertaker that led to the cash in of the Money in the Bank. I want to think of like a recent moment in like 2015. You had the Vaudevillains debut on SmackDown, but that's not really anything special. The Miz, obviously, even though it wasn't on SmackDown, but the Miz's stuff that's been going on this year, and the whole Miz-Dolph Ziggler feud. I'm trying to think of like something, a moment I'm forgetting. I can't really like think of another. Obviously, Teddy Long's moments when he would say, it's going to be a tag team match later, and your tag team partner is going to be The Undertaker! I believe it was on SmackDown where Undertaker tried to teach Kane how to do the last ride. That was just really funny comedic stuff that I just remember. I don't know why would I do. It's just random. I don't know if I said it, but Brock Lesnar making Hulk Hogan pass out. Obviously, Mr. America, that abomination. Ugh. I remember one when Chris Jericho pretended to be one of the guys dressed up as a Rey Mysterio fan, and he was doing that whole thing where he wanted Rey Mysterio to take his mask off, and he attacked and assaulted and beat the shit out of Rey Mysterio. The whole stuff with Edge when he had kidnapped Paul Bearer, that's memorable, in my opinion. I can't really think of anything else at the moment, but if you guys can think of other things, then let me know. There was one I remember. There was a TLC tag title match. It was a Fatal 4 with Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit versus the Dudley Boys versus the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian. That's a great match, and I can't believe I forgot about that one. And when Heidenreich had raped Michael Cole. And Muhammad Hassan's whole thing where he had taken out The Undertaker with the whole hooded figures. So, a lot of memorable moments on SmackDown. So now that I've talked about all the memorable moments, let me talk about this show itself. So obviously, we had the pre-show. We had the same guys on the panel excluding Booker T, which was good. I'll talk about what happened on the pre-show because I'm just going to book this the same way as I did Raw. We had the opening match. It was the Intercontinental Championship match. But on commentary for the show itself, we had Tom Phillips, JBL, Mauro Ranallo, and David Otunga. I still don't get why Tom Phillips is on commentary. He literally does not do anything on commentary. He doesn't call matches. Literally all he does is he's the host of SmackDown, but he doesn't do shit. He's useless to be out there. He's already terrible enough on SmackDown, but it's like he's pretty much up there with his thumbs up his ass. It's just fucking dreadful. We had the opening match. It was the Intercontinental Championship match. Intercontinental Champion Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. This was a really good opening matchup. I did not think, though, however, that this match was as good as the matches that they've had at Backlash, No Mercy. I would even say SummerSlam 2014. And if I'm, other places, this was just not one of their best matches, but it was still a really good match. And yeah, it was really awesome, really good. I really enjoyed it. And they started at first exchanging going for finishers and roll-ups on each other. And then The Miz dominated Dolph Ziggler, really worked on the left leg on him. Dolph Ziggler made a comeback. He hit the Faymaster on him, and he kicked out. Miz hit a big boot. Ziggler kicked out of it. Then The Miz started mocking Daniel Bryan. He started hitting the yes kicks on Dolph Ziggler. And then he hit the running knee into a skull-crushing finale. Ziggler kicked out. Ziggler hit the zigzag. Miz got his foot on the ropes before the referee could make the count, so that broke up the referee's count. Then the Spirit Squad came out during this match, and Dolph Ziggler took them out and with super kicks. And then Miz got Ziggler into the figure 4 leg lock, but Ziggler was able to fight out of it. And then eventually Dolph Ziggler rolls up the Miz, and then Maurice rolls it up into a pinfall of her own, and Miz ends up winning the matchup and becoming the new Intercontinental Champion. And that means, since now that The Miz has now won this matchup, that means that now, instead of the Dolph Ziggler going on to face Sami Zayn for the IC title, now The Miz is going to go on and face Sami Zayn for the IC title, which I'm really not sure how to feel about that. I'm kind of in the mixed reaction of it. I hate it more than I like it, but I don't mind it. Here's why I don't like it, because I feel like you could have gotten a better matchup with Dolph Ziggler and Sami Zayn. You know, it's a matchup we haven't seen before. It's a matchup that this is supposed to be a fantasy warfare show, and you have Sami Zayn and Dolph Ziggler. That would have just been a matchup that, because it's a matchup we haven't seen, it's a matchup that we're not going to see anytime soon. And what better way to have this match than have a 5-star matchup? It would have been an instant 5-star match. It really would have stolen the show at Survivor Series, and they really missed out on the opportunity to do so. Plus, Dolph Ziggler's the one that offered this challenge to begin with, so why the hell isn't he going to walk in the champion? It really doesn't make any sense, but whatever, I guess. But I'm fine with The Miz because of the whole history with him and Daniel Bryan, because we have Daniel Bryan and The Miz, who have wrestled each other, who are at odds with each other. And Daniel Bryan will have no choice, because even The Miz on Talking Smack, which Daniel Bryan and Renee Young were on the panel for, he had come on and said, who are you going to root for at Survivor Series? Because you don't like me, but I'm on your brand. But also you like Sami Zayn, but he's on the opposite brand that's in competition with you. So who are you going to root for? It was a really good question. It was really good, So that kind of adds that interest there. But also, the reason I don't like the fact that Miz won too is because it kind of takes away that unpredictability factor that they had with Ziggler facing Sami Zayn. Because now that the Miz has won this match, you kind of know that he's not going to lose the match at Survivor Series. It's because he just won the belt. Why would he just drop it again? With Dolph Ziggler, you really didn't know. Sami Zayn could still win the title. It's still a possibility. It's in his hometown, but Dolph Ziggler, it was really up in the air. You really didn't know. It was more unpredictable with Dolph Ziggler going in there as the Intercontinental Champion. So I really wasn't a huge fan of that. What else did we have happen on the show? We had the whole let me think. What else happened on the show? We had they built up the tag team, the best tag team Survivor Series match with all the tag teams, and Beauty and the Man Beast had set up a match with all the other members of their team, and they said to give them some inspiration and to really put this team in order, we brought someone in that can do so. And who returned? None other than Ken Booker, which was awesome, because this was like a surprise I didn't see coming. Like, they said he was there, but I didn't think he was going to do something that's awesome. He was all decked out in full Ken Booker gear, and he reads like a Declaration of Creed to tell him to work together. It was really awesome to see him back in this role again. And then Breezango come in, and they say that this is all a fashion statement. And I actually still kind of like what their gimmick in a sense, but it just is it doesn't have my interest now as much as it did last week. Last week I wasn't really like it. I wouldn't really say I was interested, but it had my attention. This week it did not have my attention. It just didn't. And Ken Booker gets in their face, turns into Booker T and says, "Tell me he didn't just say that." And he tells them that we're not going to wear power outfits. We're going to dress like champions, and you guys all need to start working together. So then they kind of agree to it, which I thought was funny. So then we had the tag team match with everybody but Beauty and the Bamboos, but they were out ringside. It was American Alpha, the Hype Bros, the Usos, and Breezango versus the Vaudevillains, the Headbangers, the Ascension, and the Spirit Squad. And this was an okay tag team match. I thought it was they actually delivered pretty well. Yeah, and it was a solid tag team. It was a solid match. It wasn't anything special. It was just kind of there in a way, but it was a solid match. It was a way to build up the Survivor Series tag team match and to kind of get these teams to work together. It was really awkward, though, because the Usos were acting like their old face self in this match because they did, like, the dive on the outside, which is the move that they haven't done in a while, so it's, like, it was kind of weird. I don't know if that... I wonder if it was just for this match, just to kind of show that they're willing to take these risks to go after the... to beat Team Raw's tag team, so... but eventually, the SmackDown's tag team that are going to be in the Survivor Series match win the match when the American Alpha hit Grand Amplitude on one of the Headbangers for the win. It's just really weird, though, because this match... The tag team divisions on both shows are really weird because you have Team Raw's where they don't have a lot of teams. The only teams that they have are Enzo and Cass, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Shining Stars, comedy tag team, the Golden Truth, another comedy tag team, but I mean it's still a team. The New Day. And I guess now Cesaro and Sheamus. But they didn't have this team before. They had to throw this team together to really save the tag team division. They don't have a lot of teams. It's just kind of like, you know... But then again, they have a lot more story... And you have SmackDown, who has a lot of tag teams. They got American Alpha, the Spirit Squad, the Ascension, the Vaudevillains. You know, pretty much everybody that was in this match was in the entire tag team division. But they don't have a lot of storylines for their tag team. Raw does, kind of. You know, they have a storyline going on with the New Day and Sheamus and Cesaro. They have a storyline going on with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson and Enzo and Cass. It's not the greatest storyline, but it's still a storyline. And even though this is a shit storyline, they have a storyline going on with the Golden Truth and the Shining Stars. Even though it's shit, but it's still a storyline. SmackDown doesn't have any. I mean, this is the first time... I don't even remember the last time we had seen Slater and Rhino on the show, and they're supposed to be the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And it makes me question, if they weren't going to be on the show up till now, why did they keep the titles at No Mercy against the Usos? Why didn't the Usos win them? Now, then again, it's not really their fault, because you really haven't seen the Usos as much either, because they've been I think the tag teams... Everything kind of is being overshadowed by this Survivor Series match, so maybe that's why we haven't really seen a lot of these teams around, but still... Rhino and Slater are doing shit. You got the Usos, who are in a feud technically with American Alpha. I don't even know if they are. I would be shocked if they just forgot about it. By the time Survivor Series ends, they got them in a feud with each other. Why not make it for the tag titles? I mean, that's kind of how it all started in a way. It would make sense. And you got American Alpha, who's not even over with the crowd. They don't do shit with American Alpha. It's a shame. But anyhow, I just kind of, I don't know what. I just kind of felt like going on that little rant right there. But yeah, so that was the tag matches. I kind of wish Raw's tag teams would have come out. They had like a big, huge wall. But maybe they didn't want to have that many people in the ring right now. But I just think that would have been cool to kind of really build up the match. And then we had the woman build up. Becky Lynch on the pre-show. I cut an interview talking about how... She was happy that she retained her title, and she knows Alexa Bliss is going to want a rematch because of the controversial fashion. But if there isn't anything controversial about it, if she wants to have a rematch, then she can just challenge me for it, and I'll face her for it. So then she shows the footage to Daniel Bryan, Alexa Bliss backstage of her having her feet on the ropes, and Daniel Bryan agrees to give her a rematch, but the referee's decision does stay. But she wants her to be focused on taking out Team Raw, and she agrees. And then it was Carmella versus Nikki Bella. Now, I really don't get... This is kind of like what I didn't like about that Fatal 5-Way they did last week on Raw. Why are they having Team SmackDown's teams fight amongst each other? In a way, it makes sense because you want to have their issues be dissolved and over with. But it also doesn't make sense because they could seriously injure each other since they have that hatred. You know, they should have done the same thing they did on Raw where they had to work together as a tag team to face some woman. It would have made sense. Um, but I thought this match was fine. One dangerous spot, though, was when they had Carmella do the neckbreaker off the apron. Just because it really wouldn't be a dangerous spot, but because Nikki Bella still technically, I mean, she just recently came back in August from neck surgery, and the fact that you did a spot like that is still kind of dangerous. You know, she was holding her neck afterwards. I mean, I know she was maybe she was selling the injury, so, you know. But the match was, I thought, a pretty good match. During the match, Charlotte comes out, and she has a ticket ringside, so she's allowed to be out there. So she's kind of watching the match. And the match ends when Nikki Bella attacks Charlotte for no fucking reason. I mean, really, she attacked her for no reason. Charlotte was out there watching the match, and she just got attacked. You could say, yeah, she was being really rude to Nikki, but she really wasn't. She was just kind of there. It would be different if Charlotte, like, slapped her in the face or something. But Nikki Bella just kind of attacked her for no reason. She just kind of came up, attacked her. You know? It's really weird. But, yeah, the match gets thrown out. And Nikki Bella and Charlotte brawl for a while. And they were in this brawl when the Smackdown women's team was on Talking Smack. They even showed this injury that Nikki Bella suffered with her teeth. It was not really pretty brutal. And during the match, Raw's woman tag Survivor Series team all just attacked Charlotte, which was kind of weird because this wasn't really a heel-like move, but it was weird because Bayley was in this role, and you wouldn't really see Bayley do something like this, so I thought that was weird. But you had this, and they all just beat the crap out of Nikki for a little while until his Team Smackdown comes out, women come out and make the save. And they just got into a brawl that I just thought was terrible. You have Nia Jax, who's throwing people around, and the difference between when Nia Jax was doing it and when Braun Strowman was, is Braun Strowman actually looked dominant. Nia Jax just was forced. It was just, I can't explain it, but it was just forced, and she just is terrible. And she goes to charge at Becky Lynch into the barricade, but Nia Jax puts herself through the barricade, and then Naomi dives in all the SmackDown women, and on the Raw women, and SmackDown's team stands tall, which you want to have SmackDown having momentum going into Survivor Series, so I thought that made sense. And then, yeah, that was good, you know. The brawl was shit, though. And then at the end of the show, we had the Cutting Edge with Team SmackDown's men. And Edge congratulates James Ellsworth, but AJ Styles thinks he thinks he's talking about AJ Styles because he talked about how people get more of opportunities here on SmackDown and that people can take them. So he congratulates James Ellsworth, and he offers to do a 5-second pose with him, but AJ Styles says that this guy is unimportant, and Edge says that you guys have to learn to work together, and then Ambrose and Styles get into it, and then Edge asks what happened to him, and Wyatt says, and then he says, when you talk, does Bray Wyatt have to pull a string because you're his puppet? And Bray Wyatt says that this is a new Viper that you've never seen before, a ruthless Viper. And then The Undertaker returns, which I marked out for because I love me some Undertaker. You know, because he's my favorite wrestler of all time. It was really awesome to see him out here. And he gets on the mic and he talks about how he tops his hat to Shane McMahon, saying he's the perfect person to be the commissioner. And he says that WrestleMania doesn't define him anymore. He says that now he said he made his debut at Survivor Series. SmackDown has always been his home. And he also warns Team SmackDown that he will break them if they don't get along at Survivor Series. And he says that Team Raw better rest in peace. And then that was it. I thought that was a perfect way to use Undertaker. I kind of wish he would have laid somebody out with a chokeslam, maybe Bray Wyatt, just because it's not like it's going to hurt Bray Wyatt even more. It's already, you know. And I actually wonder what Undertaker means by WrestleMania doesn't define him. Does this mean that he's going to come back and work some shows before WrestleMania? Because if he does, that would be awesome. SmackDown could really use The Undertaker. because they don't have a lot of top baby faces. They really only have Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler. Not really a lot. Can't even say really Randy Orton right now because, you know. So is this gonna be where Undertaker? Is Undertaker gonna come back and work some schedules? Maybe at TLC, team up with Kane and the Brothers Destruction in a tables match against Wyatt and Orton. Then face maybe Orton at the Rumble and then Cena at WrestleMania, maybe. Because I really would like to see Undertaker work maybe like one more full-time run, and then he can kind of go off into the sunset. That'd be really cool. But I'm going to wait and see, because I really hope that would be awesome if he could show up, maybe face Styles for the WWE World Championship, because that would be awesome. That'd be great. So, makes me wonder. But yeah, so that was SmackDown. I talked for a while, mainly too because I've made this video like twice now, so I'm hoping that this time it goes through. But overall, I thought SmackDown was a really good show. I'm not going to grade it a 10 out of 10 because there was some problems I had with it. I am going to rate it an 8 out of 10 because it did get a little boring at sometimes. Like, it got boring kind of around the point where we had the women's match. I didn't think the match, but when they had that brawl, I thought that was terrible. And then you had that tag team match wasn't boring. It was just kind of there. So, you know, that kind of hurt the show a little bit. So, I'm going to rate it not a 9 out of 10. An 8 out of 10. I thought it was really good. I mean, they pulled out all the stops. So SmackDown was better than Raw this week. I fully expected that to be the case just because it was the 900th episode of SmackDown. So, you know, you get to relive some nice moments of SmackDown too. So, I fully expected SmackDown to be better than Raw. They even showed, like, I forgot to mention, a little hype video for Goldberg and Brock Lesnar's match coming up, which I thought was awesome. So, yeah. So, yeah, make sure to check out my videos, and I'm going to be uploading my Survivor Series predictions, hopefully next if this goes through. So, yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and subscribe to my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel because I do videos on there too, and my own The Talkinator channel. I don't know when I'm going to be making videos on there again. I'm hopefully very soon, but that's pretty much it, guys. I'll talk to you later. Oh, sorry, I didn't hit the button all the way. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.